Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
There are 7 present, 2 absent. Councilmember Butterfield and O'Brien are excused from the meeting.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm not getting in.
Proposed additions or deletions.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. You're voting or? Okay.
I'm going to have to be a voice vote. I'm not loading.
Okay. Councilmember Osmus?
Aye.
That motion carries. 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, before I call on Judy for the consent items, got some sad news. January 2nd, Judy will be retiring. January 5th.
5th, yes.
Judy will be retiring. She has served the city for a long time. She was in the assessing department for 28 years, and she was city clerk for 7 years. So, Judy, we will miss you.
Thank you.
You won't miss us. We will miss you.
Sorry, probably not.
All right.
Ouch.
No. Well, 35 years, yeah. It's time to move on.
Thank you for your years of service, Judy.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, consent items. Judy?
On tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval, the city council minutes of December 4th, city council work session minutes of December 11th, municipal utilities meeting minutes of December 11th, a resolution for the ICE agreement with One Way Athletics LLC, resolution for ICE agreement with MBSE LLC, a resolution for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota sponsorship funding for community growth-led special events, Park and Recreation Board appointments, the Municipal Utilities Commission reappointments, Planning Commission reappointments, and the Accounts Payable Report for November 27th through December 12th or 14th. For council's information, the Building Report for November of 2023, Director's Reports, the Municipal Utilities October Financial Statement, and a review of the Pioneer Land Board and Main Street Board applicants.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Go ahead and vote.
No.
Audrey.
Oh, Audrey, I'm sorry.
That's right. Thank you, Mayor Reese. I was wanting to just pull D and E, just for clarification of who those businesses are, kind of in a review of how that works. And then I also had a question on the building report. That one is just for information. There's some that have fees, but they don't have dollar amounts on for construction on there. I was just curious on that.
Okay, so go ahead. ICE agreement with One Way Athletics LLC.
First of all, let's approve the consent agenda with that removed.
Yes.
Okay.
Who's going to?
Councilmember Osmus?
Aye.
That motion also carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Who's going to keep me straight, Judy, if you aren't here?
Whoever sits in this chair next.
Good evening, Mayor and the council. One Way Athletic is a new organization in town by 2 hockey members. One's on the hockey board, one's a youth coach. They approached us about taking over the spring ice so they can have ice in April and May. So we ran the numbers of what we did last year, and they want to have it for their AAA teams and other youth hockey events.
Okay. All right. I think one of them had a name on and one didn't. They both are, looks like they're both corporations, LLCs.
Yeah, the MBSE is Mike Bowman Sports Entertainment. He's basically taken over the West Central Hockey.
Okay.
So they've kind of combined their forces together, but they are dissolving the West Central Hockey, and he's just absorbing the West Central Hockey piece of it and just changed the name of it.
So are we giving up our programming for the ice for that new one?
We are not.
You just didn't do programming at
We
that?
tried it, we did it last year, and we noticed that we weren't getting the rentals for like the AAA teams from the out of town. And I'm like, we got to weigh out the difference about if is it worth keeping it on or not, and they want to keep it on, so this is how much it cost us last year, and so we're going to say if you want it, then they can pay for it and program it the way that they see fit.
Okay, thank you. I'd make a motion to approve both. Do you want them separate or together, D and E?
Just one motion's fine.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second. Go ahead and vote. Yeah, MBSE is much shorter than Mike Bowman Sports Entertainment.
Councilmember Osmus?
Aye.
That motion carries. 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right? Did we approved the ones that,
Yeah, just a question on the building permits. There's one for the 74-unit apartment that showed a 0 evaluation, but $2,719.50 for fees. I think there was one more that I spotted somewhere too. Just curious.
I would say it's for mechanical permit.
Okay,
It's not for the building.
it's not the building?
That's why the 70,000 is, yeah.
All right.
all right, have we approved the consent agenda items that were withdrawn?
Yeah, I just had a question on that one.
Okay. So we moved to 8. Open forum. I don't have the sheet, but I know that
Sorry.
Harlan's here to talk on the open
Just
forum.
Harlan.
Harlan, you got 3 minutes. I know that's hard for you. You stay within 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the smile with that recommendation. I have my phone in front of me, and I'm just starting at 3 minutes. For the record, I'm Harlan Madsen. I live in a farm north of Lake Lillian, and I'm here to address the EDC questions and discussion. Truly, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I was very saddened by some of the comments that I saw in the paper from the discussion about the name change in EDC. Councilman Anderson, myself, Dick Larson, and at that time, the mayor worked for 2 years along with staff, Mick and Wayne, to bring together today what we have as an excellent EDC in our county. Certainly has proved itself over the last several years. And I clearly state that multiple discussions were had about name, multiple discussions were had about formations, and so on and so forth. The one thing that rose to the surface all the time was being inclusive, was being recognized, was doing things in a team effort. We followed the cliche or the name of impact. We were innovative, we had a mission, we were positive, we wanted to accept and appreciate, we wanted to communicate, and we wanted to operate as a team. The team, to me, and to everybody that sat on that commission and that original organization, was how do we work as a team together to create a county-wide growth, to create a county-wide atmosphere and present a mission. I don't want us to go backwards. I do not live in Willmar, but I represent Willmar. I sat 26 years on this county board. Everything that I did, everything that I was allowed to do, was always focused upon what is the best for our county, not Raymond or Willmar or Lake Lillian or Princeburg, but what is the best for our county. And I absolutely believe, as I'm standing here, that we have moved light years. We have moved light years in terms of development, in terms of publicity and promotion. I really implore you, let's not go backwards. Let's not create the yours and mine. Let's not create the competition. Let's send a message, and keep sending a message, that we operate as a county. What's good for Cantiohai County is good for Willmar, it's good for Raymond, it's good for Blumkest, it's good for all of our communities, it's good for Spicer, it's good for New London. I came back from a wonderful trip here a few days ago. People know Green Lake 800 miles away. They know that. They know the fishing. Agriculture, there's my time, Mr. Reese. We are an agricultural county. We benefit from that. I implore you to continue that, and I am going to suggest strongly that we accept the recommendation of the EDC as far as the name. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Harlan. All right, we'll go on to regular business. Frank, tell us about buying a new ladder truck.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is a recommendation to purchase a new ladder truck for the city of Willmar. We've had several discussions on it throughout the budgeting process. The ladder truck costs it does cost $1,700,000. The truck that it's replacing is a 1999 ladder truck. Currently, we're having a little bit of mechanical issues with it. We're finding that the parts are hard to find. We're having some electrical issues within just the last couple of weeks. Because it being as old as it is, it draws a lot of electricity versus LED lights and newer mechanics. Basically, I was told about a month ago, a little over a month ago, that the price is going to increase 6%. At that time, we were told middle of December. The price went up December 1st. Our salesperson was able to get this price guaranteed through the end of this year for us, before that 6% would affect us. Basically, breaking it down into 3 payments. First payment would not be due until after January 1st of 2025, when the chassis arrives. And then approximately 3 months after that, the second payment, and then the final payment when it is delivered. So at this point, I don't have anything further, just open for questions and requesting approval to sign a contract to get on board. And build time right now is approximately 2 years.
Frank, I remember one time when we built a fire truck, it was built in South Dakota somewhere?
Yes, this one is actually going to be built in Wyoming, Minnesota, just north of the cities.
Okay,
So with Rosenbauer's their main plant there.
okay. Questions, council? 1.7 million. Better not be aluminum ladders on the side of it.
It's hard to believe 1.7 million. I can't hardly wrap my brain around that. That's crazy. But I did go through the specs again today, and it's 1.7 million, just the basics,
How many
unfortunately.
places build trucks like that?
What's that?
How many places build trucks like that?
There's several manufacturers out there. We've been going through Rosenbauer since 2002. Our last several trucks have been through Rosenbauer.
That's the company in
Yep.
Wyoming?
Yep,
Okay.
and top-notch people, top-notch equipment from there.
So we didn't let it out on bids.
No, they do a bidding process already through a cooperative process, so it's already out on a bid that they do with other companies. We just don't have to have formal bidding.
Okay. Audrey?
Just a question. We approved it. It's in the CIP budget. I guess we put it in the budget for next year. Is there anything we need to do to be able to approve it before 2024? From a budgeting standpoint or anything?
I didn't follow that. What was that, Audrey?
It's in next year's budget, but we're okay to approve it now. Yes.
So we're looking for a resolution, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second for a resolution to purchase the ladder truck at 1.7 million. Any questions? Rick?
So who can drive this then? Do you have to have a special license or semi?
No, you do not have to have a special license, a Class D license, but they go through hours and hours of training before they're allowed to drive this big truck. About 36 hours, I believe it is, before they're allowed really to go out with it on calls and stuff.
So we have a couple of gentlemen or firemen?
We have probably 10 or 12 firefighters that are trained on our current ladder truck that can drive it.
And the company we buy it from, do they do the training?
Yes, they'll come out and they provide up to 3 days worth of training through the contract to run everything.
So this is a large cab with an extended wheelbase?
Yes. Yes. The ladder sections alone are a little over 32 feet long, I believe. Just the ladder sections itself. So I don't know the actual length of it, but I'm gonna guess right around the 50-foot mark, right in that area.
It'll be the same size as what we have now?
That's correct. Yes.
How far does the ladder go
The,
up?
the ladder will go up, this one is 101 feet from the ground. It will go up in the air. The current one we have is 100 feet. So, the same.
Okay, any other questions? If not, roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly?
Aye.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Frank.
Thank you.
All right. Then we go to approve credit change order number 11 for the construction contingency of Swanson Fields project and close out the project. Rob?
Mayor, member of the council, this is just a little house cleaning that we need to do with the Invest in Willmar project. So tonight it's to approve a resolution accepting the credit change order in the amount of $12,727.85 of unused construction contingency funds for the Swanson Field project and approve the project to be closed out. Again, that project was a $2 million project. The total cost of the project was $1,965,571.40. And the remaining funds in that budget is $34,428.60.
All right,
I'll make that motion.
Second.
we got a motion and a second for the resolution. Any questions?
Right.
Audrey?
Thank you. I had a conversation with Mary Swatsky regarding that. She made the comment that they wanted to get through the first year to see if they had anything else that needed to be done, was aware that there were some funds, but not an amount that was aware. If they decide they want to still use this funds? Is closing out this fund not allowing them to do that anymore, or giving them access to that, or what does it mean to close it out?
That the project will be officially closed, and then it's always on the council's discretion of where those funds would be used for. Because right now, the way that I've taken it is that anything that is left over for contingency wise anyway has to get a council approval.
Okay, so I'm still a supporter of spending the money where it needs to be, and I know that we had to cut things there, so if they want to come back, then they can still come back with a project that would be up to that amount? With that, for us to approve?
Yes, if we are still letting the subcommittee have those rights. I think at one time the Mess and Willmar was completely shut down.
That was not something that that the council decided, I don't believe, but it's my understanding that those groups have not been meeting, and I feel like we've got lots more money in some of the other ones that should still be respected with the work that they put in there if there's something else left. So that's just my opinion, but this means it's shut down, and anything that would be requested has to come back to us.
Correct.
Can we, why do we have to do this right now?
It was part of the process to close the projects out, so they're clean, and then now we know where we're at with leftover contingency funds.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we have a resolution in front of us.
I got one.
Rick?
So Rob, will Bluefield be ready for them to play on this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because there was some turf issues or something.
We've had some finger pointing about from one contractor to the next contractor, and it was just, yeah, not a good situation, but we got her done.
Okay, thanks.
Audrey?
I'll ask one more. I know there were things in the CIP we didn't fund for Swanson Fields. So is there not a way to use this funds for some of those things?
We surely can if the council wants to do it. I can reach back out to the subcommittee and ask them, with the dollar amount that we have left, what are their top priorities on what they would like to see done at that complex?
I'm just concerned this is only one of the projects, so that we have a process in place for all of them.
I don't think it has ever been discussed about what we're going to do with the leftover contingencies. From my understanding, it was just once the main part of the projects got done, we weren't going to do anything until we knew exactly what we were to do with the leftover contingencies.
Any other questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 5 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Nelson voting no.
Item C, approve credit change order number 12 for the construction contingency of recreation fields project and close out the project. Rob?
So same scenario, we're going to close out the recreation field project, so it's approving a resolution accepting the credit change order number 12 in the amount of $122,840.46 of the unused construction contingency from the rec field projects and to close it out. Again, that project was $6 million. The total cost of that project was $5,715,196.13. So the remaining balance that we have in that budget is $284,803.87.
Need a resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve and a second. Questions?
I'll just make the same comment again. You had all sorts of things on the list that I think were more things that needed to be done there that are more than what's left over in this project. And you'll be back to the table asking for that if it's not going to come from the local option sales tax. And I just feel that we should have a chance to review that. I guess we can do it after we close it out, but I think we're putting the cart before the horse here a little bit, so.
Any other questions? Jude?
I have a question on the fiscal breakdown here, it says that the remaining funds were 284,803 and some change. How is that different than the contingency?
We added the $122,000 into this project, so then it would balance it all out. Because that's what the construction contingency was, is that we credit it back to the owner's contingency. And that was the dollar amount that we had. Because we used some of the owner contingency on the project, for example, would be the fencing around the turf fields. That came out of the owner contingency. So Marcus had their own contingency fund of the construction. And so when they didn't use that, it came back to us in this form of a change order to put it all back into the owner's contingency.
Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. I'm guessing the other thing by closing this out, then if we decide to do something else, this would still be under Marcus Construction? If
No,
were to
we can do it all
something
on
else,
our own.
Whether we close this out or not?
Correct, because once we close it out, then their 2.35% will not count unless we bring it back to them, asking them to.
That's what I'm saying, though. We're basically saying we are done with them on this project, and if we decided to do something else, we'd have to rebid it or do something with them to do it. Or not just with them, we'd have to open it up for who's going to do it.
Yes.
Anything else? Roll call.
That motion also carries 5 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Nelson voting no.
Thanks, Rob. Accept and approve final project 2201B, Charlotte and Johanna to Becker. Jared?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is the final project acceptance for Charlotte Street. The project has been completed. We've received all the appropriate and required documents from the contractor and are recommending final payment in the amount of $98,159.34. You'll note that there is also change order number 2 included in the packet, and that is to reconcile the final project cost to the contract amount, which is a reduction of approximately $56,000 beyond the approved contract amount. So there's a resolution in your packets this evening, and we are recommending adoption of that resolution.
Looking for the introduction of the resolution.
So moved.
We got a motion,
Second.
we got a second. Discussion. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the contractor had to go back 2 months ago or something and do some extra
Approximately, yep.
work there? They had to take up what they put down?
Portion of it, yeah.
Okay,
Yep,
so we're not being charged for that?
no,
Okay, so it's not included in this?
correct.
Okay, because it was a mistake by them?
I think the workmanship was not acceptable.
Okay. So that would have been under your company to go view it and decide?
We identified that, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
wasn't our staff?
No.
Any other questions? All right, roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, next is authorize advertisement for bids, Eagle Lake Lift Station. Jared?
Mayor, Council, the plans and specifications have been prepared for Eagle Lake Lift Stations 7, 8, and 9. And it is ready to be advertised for bid. And we're recommending that council adopt the resolution to authorize the advertisement of that project.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly?
Aye.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thanks, council.
All right, Jared, stay there. Kennedy Stormwater Improvement Study Professional Services.
I'm going to throw you a curveball and present it here. Apologies. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The action that you have before you is consideration of adopting a resolution awarding the Kennedy Stormwater Improvement Study professional services to Bolton and Mink. Back in November, the city was awarded a grant by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and at our December 4th council meeting, we approved accepting that grant. So this is just the next step in coming up with the study and solutions for stormwater in the Kennedy School area. And I will stand for any questions.
Okay, we need a resolution first of all.
Move to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Questions. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a study was done years ago, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe? And the school didn't want anything to do with it, and the residents around that area, west of the school, didn't want anything. Have we talked to the school yet?
That will be part of this, this study moving forward, because we're going to need the school to be on board and also utilities to help with what we can do, the options we can come up with in that neighborhood.
Because most of the property is school-owned.
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone ever look for the old study?
Jared, can you answer that any better?
Evening, Mayor, Council. Yes, a number of years ago, an overall stormwater model was prepared. That data is available. Essentially, this is taking a smaller look at that particular area, recognizing that it is school property. Municipal utilities has some property in that area. And in terms of a specific study only specific to Kennedy, I'm not aware of that study, but certainly we can do some investigation through the process of this new study. Ultimately, what it will consist of is, as Justin said, public engagement, modeling, and a physical report based on the appetite of the school district, municipal utilities, and the surrounding residents as of now.
So it'll just be Kennedy then? It won't be Garfield? Because Garfield was in that study at the same time.
So all of those areas are included in that original modeling that I referenced. So that's kind of identified target areas throughout the community in that. What the grant that the MPCA awarded is for is to take a specific look at that specific drainage area and watershed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Next, there's a reassessment of certain properties, refunding assessments. Leslie?
Evening, council. So recently, during our special assessments, it was found that there's a state statute that covers cemeteries, and it allows that cemeteries are exempt from any special assessments. So what this is in the past, there were 3 cemeteries that were charged assessments: Vinci Memorial Cemetery, Church St. Mary Cemetery, and Bethel Lutheran Church Cemetery, for a total of $32,980.80. This resolution here would reimburse those special assessments along with interest back to the respected owners. Any questions?
All right,
Question.
yes.
Where are we getting that from?
It'll come from the general fund.
Any questions? Otherwise, I need an introduction of the resolution.
I'll make the motion to approve that resolution to refund the previously assessed cemetery property.
Second. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Audrey?
I'm assuming this is it? This is all of them?
Yes, those are the ones we found.
So then just a question, I'm not sure how far these go back, but our fund that we were putting our assessment money in and those types of things? Is it
Assessments go into the respected bonds. So that's where the fund.
right, but the funds that we are using for some CIP things next year, that fund, I can't say the name of it.
That's the community.
Community Investment Fund. Is that where some of this, like interest
It'll
in some
have
of
to be
those things?
tracked. I'm not sure where, because where these funds would have gone was for each respective bond. So I would say that that's where the funds, if we have revenues in each of those funds, that's where those funds would be taken out of.
That's what I was wondering.
Because the
Thank you.
assessments are placed against each bond.
Yes.
Any other questions? Rick?
So how many years does this go back?
It went
must have
back
been-
2015, I believe, was the farthest back it went.
Okay. So did they ask for the money, or we just
No.
did our due diligence?
We're
this
just
time?
doing our due diligence,
Okay, thanks.
but we did get some questions asked also.
Any other questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 5 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstain. Councilmember Osk abstained.
Next is consider approval of airport operations agreement between the city and Oasis Air. Kyle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. The city contracts for services at for airport operations. The agreement included in your packet is an operations agreement that supervises the day-to-day activities necessary to keep the Willmar Municipal Airport safe, accessible, and operating daily. The current contract initially expired at the end of 2020, has been automatically renewed every year. The Airport Commission, city staff, and the airport supervisor have reviewed the agreement and are recommending changes to a new 3-year contract beginning on January 1st, 2024, and expiring December 31st, 2026. Modifications to the agreement broadly include clarification for city and airports and the airport supervisor on responsibilities for specific tasks. And at its last meeting, the Airport Commission approved the operations agreement and recommended its approval to the city council. I'll stand for any questions.
First, I want the resolution introduced.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Questions? Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. I know that we've talked over the last few times about some things that needed to be taken care of. I'm assuming that's what you're doing here. But is the city picking up more responsibilities for maintenance out there? And some of those things, I'm just wondering from a budgeting standpoint, and very supportive of the contract and what we have there, but it feels like we are having some additional expenses in addition to outside of what's in this contract. Would that be correct?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Yes, there are some slight additions that the city will be taking on. Myself and with the Public Works Director sat down and reviewed what those would look like on a yearly basis, and we truly believe that those will be nominal costs, and the benefit that the city, or not the benefit, but the additional services that the city would be providing aren't substantial to the agreement in dollar amounts.
Dollar amounts. And we were doing mowing and those kinds of things
Already doing most
before,
of it for the
before
large
that.
areas.
That was
yes.
not part of the change.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see Mr. Rennigan, our manager, is there. Does he have any concerns?
invite him up, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I do not have concerns with this. We've worked with city staff at length to try to address some things. I would say that some of the items that look like the city is taking over that were in my purview before are things that we're getting done twice. So for example, if I send out a bunch of contracts to renew T-hanger leases, I send them out, I can receive them, then I have to take them down to City Hall. They have to look through them. They have to kind of do the work over again to make sure that it's right and then enter into that contract because I'm a contract employee. This kind of eliminates the middleman and just says, you know, the city can send out those contracts. And certainly I'm there to answer any questions or do the day-to-day replacing of light bulbs and the sealing of the T-hangers or things like that. But those are some of the main items that may look like there's some shifts going on. So we're comfortable with it. I want to say to the council, thank you for the opportunity to serve the city of Willmar in this capacity. We feel like we've done a great job promoting the airport. If you look at back, say, 10 years to where we are now, you know, there's been some hangar construction, there's been some drainage things addressed. More are in the works. Actually just found out that because of the rain, things are too hard to finish this year, even though we've had a beautiful fall. But the airport is really in a good spot and poised to continue to grow with this community as the exciting things in the industrial park, especially for us, take off. So thank you.
Well, thanks for signing on again, and you're doing a great job out there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
All right, we have the resolution before us. Roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Next, we have the fixed base operator agreement between the city of Willmar and Oasis. Kyle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A fixed-based operator at FBO is a full-service commercial operator who engages in the primary activity of aircraft refueling and a minimum of one of the other following secondary activities, which could include airframe and power plant maintenance, flight training, aircraft rental, air charter operations, avionics maintenance, or sales of aircraft storage hangars rentals. The city of Willmar leases 10,347 square feet to Oasis Air Inc. for their operations. The Airport Commission, city staff, and Oasis Air reviewed the draft agreement, which indicates increased rents and fuel prices. On November 15th, the Airport Commission approved the draft agreement and is recommending its approval to the City Council.
So,
This would be a 5-year agreement.
all right, so move.
Second.
We got a motion and a second for the resolution. Any questions? Audrey?
I'll try not to miss any asking questions on anything tonight. Why is this one 5 years and the other one was 3?
So when we had conversations with Eric and Oasis Air, a lot of their operations, and maybe Eric, you might want to come up for this too and explain. So maybe you just want to explain the benefits of having a long-term agreement versus a shorter-term agreement.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you again. So this, I'm going to put 2 different hats on. One of them is the City of Willmar Airport Manager hat, and one of them is my FBO Manager hat. And so from the City of Willmar Airport Manager hat, the 3-year operations agreement is a good way to do that, to have continued presence in front of the council, to make sure that there are not things that are falling through the cracks, to make sure that the management of the airport is still the number 1 priority. And this is what's difficult with this whole thing, because of course I'm a business person as well, but really the airport has to be here and my FBO has to be underneath it somewhere, especially with my airport manager hat on. And that really is me representing the city of Willmar. And so that 3-year contract is separate from the FBO contract just for those reasons, so that there is an opportunity for critique and potentially severability if need would be, without affecting the FBO contract. Now, from the FBO standpoint, looking for a little bit longer time frame is really about dollars and cents and just doing business. If I have this contract and I need to buy a $80,000 or $160,000 fuel truck, and I want to spread that out a little ways, and the bank says, "Oh, I see you have a 2-year contract or a 3-year contract," it's difficult for me to say, let's put that on a 30-year note or something, right? So the little bit longer contract is more advantageous from a business standpoint when it comes to the FBO. Certainly from my standpoint, longer is better, but I understand. But again, now if I put my airport manager hat on, we also want to make sure, for the same reasons the airport manager contract needs to be looked at, the FBO contract needs to be looked at to be sure that, again, the FBO is doing what we need as a city, what we need to do to promote the airport and to be there for the people that are using the airport. So hopefully that explains just a little bit about why they're separate and also the differences in lengths. So, thank you.
All right, we've got the resolution. Any further questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next is the Civic Center Arena Special Event on Sale Liquor License Holder Permits, Spurs Corporation. Judy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is a request to approve a Civic Center Arena special event by on-sale liquor license holder permit for Spurs Corporation to serve alcohol at the Glacial Ridge Curling Club one-day Battle of the Businesses on January 27th of 2024 and a 2-day Novice Bonspiel on March 8th and 9th of 2024. Staff's recommendation is to approve as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? There being none? Roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Next is Sunday liquor license renewals for 2024. Judy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you is the renewals for the following Sunday liquor license sales for 2024. And we have 12 businesses that have applied, and they are the same that have reapplied in the last several years.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Questions? All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Audrey.
I know I've asked this before, but why are they pending police department approval now or?
We had received the applications. There were a couple that came in later, so we sent them out to PD prior to the packet being issued, and we didn't get them back until the packet was issued already.
So they are approved?
They are approved, yes.
All right. Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson, popped in, sorry. That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Judy, I hope you're going to tell us, I'm paging back and forth here trying to make comparisons. I didn't do it earlier, but we got two considerations here that are very much the same. They're two different. One is the BF.
For the THC?
Yeah.
Yep, this is a new request for a license, this item on the agenda. It's the local VFW club has applied to sell THC products, the THC seltzers. So this is something new. The next item are just renewals of current licenses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
All right, so You heard the explanation. We need a roll call or a motion on the sale of THC products license. That's the VFW.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions? Roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, next is the sale of THC products 2024 license renewals. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Here we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Next item is wage increase consideration for our community service officers. Chief Felt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Item before you tonight for consideration is wage increase for our community service officers. Our community service officers are part-time employees of the Willmar Police Department. They are law enforcement students, mainly from Ridgewater College. Most recently, we've had a few from Alexandria Technical College that work for us. In the past, their base wage has been $14 an hour. After a year of working with us, that wage increases by 50 cents an hour. We're finding that to be competitive with other jobs in the area, mainly aimed at college students, fast food and other things like that. We're lagging behind and we're having difficulty recruiting people into the CSO program with our department. Yeah, the 2024 Willmar Police Department budget included a potential wage increase from $14 an hour to $17 an hour base wage. We would ask that the council consider that wage increase to start in 2024 here. Just a little bit of reference that our part-time employees, typically during the school year, our CSOs work anywhere from 8 hours to 20 hours a week, roughly. And during the summer, they work anywhere from 20 to 35 hours a week. And they do a lot of extras for the police department, the community events, the Rock and Robins, the abandoned vehicles, shuttling cars for service, and a lot of things like that. They're a good, especially in the time that we're short of officers, are a good, I guess you could call it, force multiplier for our department to have. So I would ask the consideration to move their base wage from $14 an hour to $17.
I would make that motion with gusto.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, in the past, what kind of rate do we see our CSOs like finishing their education and then applying to be members of the Willmar PD?
Oh, great question. Most of the time, our CSOs, they enter into the CSO program generally during the first year of college. Sometimes it can be the second. Usually they're in the program for, we've seen as briefly as 6 months to about 3.5 years. Some continue on their education with like St. Cloud State or Mankato, especially with remote learning and that type of thing now. But usually within about an 18-month time frame, they can be eligible to be police officers. And part of it we look at, this is 18 months for, they have an 18-month job interview with us that way, and it's also 18 months for us to sell our department to them to apply now also.
And what kind of retention rate have we had? Maybe retention isn't the right word, but
Sure.
Yeah.
We have, I think, on our department, we probably have 6 or 7 former CSOs that work for our department right now. And, it benefits other agencies too, that the Sheriff's Department has, I think, 3 of our past or 4 of our past CSOs that work for them. And we have, past CSOs that are working in the metro agencies and federal, and it's been a very helpful program for us, especially though.
Okay. And then how many CSOs do we currently have?
We currently have 4. We're working on onboarding 3 more. And we already know that one of them, when he completes school in June, will be gone for sure he's applying, he wants to work for a metro department. We're still trying to work on him staying with us, but generally short-term, and we have another CSO that plans to leave soon, too.
Is there a capacity of how many you could take?
Generally, we've tried to keep it around the 5 to 7 mark. Has been pretty good, still allows enough hours for them, and there's plenty of tasks that they can do, but that's been a rough number that we've stayed at when we can.
And my last question, I promise. Thank you for all your answers so far. Have you looked, and as you're experiencing staffing shortages, have you looked at kind of reevaluating some of the tasks that are given to CSOs? I mean, certainly there's things that they cannot do as unlicensed law enforcement, right? But like,
Right.
have you examined any of that?
We have, because they are not they're not licensed. They are limited on some of the duties they can do. We still, some cities use them to take some lower level. They can go out and take, break into car reports and things like that. We really want to try and have a licensed police officer, somebody in blue, showing up to take those as long as we can staff that, but we can use CSOs on the backside to, where instead of having 3 licensed officers at a crash scene, directing traffic, we can maybe get by with 1 licensed officer and 2 CSOs, that type of thing. So we are continually trying to expand that and still give good service to the public.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with the new state law coming in January, part-time people will be able to earn some sick leave and vacation time.
That's my understanding, correct.
That might help to get some more recruits.
I think it potentially could. I think the city's still working on how that's going to work with part-time employees, but I certainly could see it being helpful for that.
I know they do a great job at Rockin' Robbins.
They do. They don't like to see yellow or the orange cones anytime soon after Rock Robbins is done. So.
Yeah, Julie?
Just another thing that we didn't mention is they also do the animal control. And that's huge.
The city of Willmar averages almost 1,000 animal complaints per year, and they handle probably 85-90% of them. So.
I had 8 possum in 1 week.
Oh, no.
And they came and took them out to the brush site.
Okay. Relocated them.
Now, you don't want to kill them.
No.
They're good.
Truly, they do relocate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
They're skilled from snakes to to llamas to cougars.
They have.
All right. Go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Fagerly?
Yes.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, tell us about the administrative violations, license revocation for High Cakes Recreational Dispensary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. First, I'll quick hand some pictures out for. This item before you tonight is to consider some administrative violations and a license revocation for a THC company in the city of Willmar. As a little bit of history, on June 9th, 2023, a Willmar sale a THC license application was received from a Mohammed Hasib Limited Liability Company to sell THC products at 1709 First Street South in Willmar, doing business as Mr. Smoke. Now, that location is between Aspen Dental and Starbucks in their short mall in front of the Uptown Mall. This license application was reviewed, approved, and issued on June 26, 2023. At the beginning of October 2023, Willmar Police, we observed that a business opened that location under the name of High Cake Recreational Dispensary. Willmar City staff did some research and determined that Hasib Limited Liability Company was still the business owner, and when contacted, that limited liability company stated that it was opened under a different business name than the original license application. City staff was willing to work with Hasib Limited Liability Company on changing the business name. On October 6, Willmar Police began to receive complaints about High Cake Recreational Dispensary selling products that were not in compliance with Willmar THC ordinance or Minnesota laws. Officers conducted compliance checks on the list on several dates and attempted to educate the owner and retail employees about products that were not legal to sell in Minnesota or products that were over the authorized THC limits. As of the last compliance check on November 29th, 2023, the business continues to sell products that do not comply with Willmar City ordinance nor Minnesota law, including items over the THC limit and leaf bud marijuana, which they have listed as hemp. Just to briefly outline some of those compliance checks, and the City of Willmar ordinance authorizes the Willmar Police Department to go in and do compliance checks to the business at any time. So during business hours, our staff went in and conducted those compliance checks because of the complaints. A short overview on Minnesota law and city ordinance restrictions is that THC edibles can contain up to 5 milligrams THC per serving and 50 milligrams total per package. Beverages containing THC can contain 2 servings of 5 milligrams for a total of 10 milligrams. It is confusing here, so if I can reread anything here if you need to. Under Minnesota law, marijuana products generally can be used and possessed, but restrictions on sale remain until it's licensed by the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management, which is potentially 2025 before they will have any state licensing in place. The Minnesota Department of Health does not enforce non-extracted products such as bud or leaf products, but the sale of such is not legal due to the high THC content. So some of those photos I passed out there is some of the products. It's just a small portion of the products that were not in compliance that our officers dealt with. So we received the first complaint on approximately October 6th. On October 12th, our officers went there. They provided the Minnesota Department of Health THC compliance information that we received from their website and from the Minnesota Department of Health to them, outlining specifically what products they could and could not sell. The employee they encountered was the brother of the owner. The officers spoke to the owner on the phone. They discovered non-authorized THC products such as several types of green leafy substance labeled as premium THC, such as is shown in the photos. 200 milligram edible packages, or 200 milligram edibles, and remember the maximum amount is 5 milligrams, for a total of 4,000 milligrams total per package, which is over the 50 milligram maximum. They found various other edibles that were well over the maximum amount. Officers took a small amount as evidence. They contacted the owner by phone. With the Willmar Police Department, our main goal, especially when it comes to new laws and that type of thing, is education rather than enforcement. So they advised them on what products were allowed to stay, which ones were not. The owner and the employee indicated that they understood. The following day, they returned and found that no items had been removed, that remained the same, encountered the same employees. What they said then was that they hadn't removed them. They just thought that they couldn't sell them, so they left them out on the shelf. They began to dispute the legality for the sale. Again, our officers explained everything. They gave again the Minnesota Department of Health compliance sheet. They observed the green leafy substances labeled as premium THC, the packaging over the legal amount for THC waxes and edibles, and documented that in photographs. So that was on the 13th. On the 18th, they returned. They encountered a different employee there. They found packaging of the prepackaged products that were well over the amount again, documented that in photographs. They spoke to the owner by phone. The owner obviously was upset with the police department, said that he was going to be suing the city for harassment. They also discovered that they were selling something that was advertised as psilocybin mushrooms, which psilocybin mushrooms are psychogenic mushrooms which are illegal in the state. Our officers were able to get a hold of one of the drug task force members. They came down with a test kit. It tested negative for that. So it was the packaging, for whatever reason is deceptive on that, but fortunately it was not actual mushrooms there. Jump ahead to the 26th. Officers returned again to check, and they found that the same items were on the shelf, same items were being sold, and now the green leafy substances had been changed. The name change had been from premium THC to prime hemp. Again, they were told to remove those products. On the 15th, myself and Captain Anderson actually visited the store. We found that they were still selling the leafy products there, still labeled as prime hemp. We advised them again that they cannot sell that. They were non-compliant. After a little bit of, or I should say a fair amount of work, the Minnesota Department of Health has one THC inspector for the entire state as of the end of November. Very busy guy. He was able to, with our complaints, was able to come down here and he actually did an inspection of High Cake Dispensary, and our officers went along with them. Now again, Minnesota Department of Health acts like we started here too. They wanted to educate rather than enforce. So they went in, identified a number of products that were not allowed by Minnesota law, pointed out that the green leafy substance, whether it's marijuana or hemp or whatever they're claiming to be, cannot be sold. They cannot enforce that. They only enforce prepackaged products. So they just advised on that. They discovered that this particular business had not registered with the Minnesota Department of Health, which is required, but they walked them through the process and finally got them registered in doing so. The THC inspector from the Department of Health seized a number of products, destroyed them on the scene, and gave them a receipt for those products and left. So beyond just the carrying the products that are not allowable by state law or by ordinance, in reviewing the application, part of that is they have to provide work comp insurance information. And on the application, the owner put that there are no employees, that there are no employees there. However, every time our officers have been there, there's only been one time that the owner's been present. It's always been other employees that have been there at that time. So based on that, due to the continued violations and noncompliance, even after extended attempts at education, we're recommending that the Willmar City Council consider the administrative violation that's listed under the city ordinance, which would be a first violation, which holds a $1,000 civil fine and a 3-day license suspension. We'd also recommend, due to the continued violations, that the city consider revoking the THC license of the High Cake Dispensary. That's also allowed by ordinance.
So we need a motion to that effect.
Does this need to be two separate or one?
Two separate.
Two separate.
Correct. I move that we impose the administrative violation, a $1,000 fine, and a 3-day suspension of the license.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Vicki?
So you said they didn't have, or they weren't Minnesota Department of Health certified? Is that correct?
They have to register with the state. So
Okay.
when the Minnesota Department of Health inspector came, he found that they were not registered with the state like is required by state law. But as part of their educational process, he got them registered.
Okay.
So they are compliant with that portion now.
Okay, so when we approve them, we don't check to see if they are,
It's not part of the formal application process. Part of it is he hadn't opened his business yet, so
okay.
if I understand the process right, he wasn't able to register then, but when they open their doors, then they're supposed to register with the Department of Health.
And then, so when they have their license revoked, what happens to all the stuff in their store? Do you guys take it?
That's a kind of a legal quandary that we've been in. Right now, Minnesota allows people to possess THC products and marijuana. However, federal law, marijuana is still illegal. So we really resisted taking the products into our possession as evidence because once it becomes our evidence, to give it back to them would be a crime under federal law. So it's kind of weird to say, but we have to pick which law we're going to break, whether we don't take it or whether we give it back or don't give it back. So again, education and trying to get them to comply was our first goal. We run into that situation now with the marijuana laws, with people get booked into the jail that we can't bring contraband into the jail, but yet we can't give their Minnesota legal product back to them when they get out either. So it's a quandary, but.
All right, Chief, you've got a 3-day suspension, but then you got, the next motion is a revocation.
Correct.
I don't understand.
Just following, or I'll turn it over to Mr. Scott here. Sorry.
Mayor, members of the council, the way your THC licensing ordinance is structured, there are prescribed penalties for violations. As noted, the first violation would be a $1,000 fine and not less than a 3-day suspension. All business licenses are also subject to suspension or revocation under a more general provision in Chapter 8 of your city code. So the recommendation for the council is to, 1, impose the prescribed penalty for the series of violations as cumulatively the first violation of the licensing of the license in this case. And secondly, given the nature of these violations and the disregard for the notices and the education efforts, I know staff and Chief felt it was advisable to initiate the revocation process, and that's more of a process. There's likely to be a revocation hearing before the city council if the business requests it at least. So what would happen if both motions that are recommended passed tonight would be a notice would go out to the business that their license is suspended for 3 days. It would probably kick in at some point next week. We'll have to figure that out before the notice goes out. And it would also advise that the license is being revoked and allow them to request a hearing before the city council where they would have the ability to come and be heard if they believe that there are reasons the license should not be revoked.
Okay, Justin?
I'll let Councilmember Davis continue with her questions if it looks like.
So the way they haven't complied so far, what happens if we revoke their license and then you find out they're still there selling their product?
That's something that we would meet with our legal team on, and it could eventually, I maybe even chaining the door shut. I don't know, but that is a possibility.
And the other thing to note, these are civil sanctions that you're considering tonight. These would also be at least misdemeanor violations of the city code and state statute as well.
Okay, Justin?
Thank you. First of all, just wondering if the business owner was notified of the conversation being on the agenda tonight.
Not by the police department, no.
Okay. And then I'm also just kind of curious, to me, Mr. Scott listed that this is what happens for the first violation, and there's a second, right? And I'm trying to remember how many we listed there, but anyway, there seems to be a progressive nature of the disciplinary actions that we take in this matter, and I'm seeing that they've violated it 7 times from what you brought to us today. So wondering, you've explained that your goal is education, especially with that first violation. I guess I'm wondering why this wasn't at a late October council meeting where we were issuing the first violation and then back to us in November for the second violation. And
Very valid question. I mean, this is something that we brought forth to our criminal prosecutors early October. It's something that was brought to the city, and it's not trying to kick the can. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty with it's a brand new ordinance that, this is the first time this has come forward. Our criminal prosecutors, the city prosecutor, criminal prosecutor looked at it, thought it would be best for the county to look at a portion of it, which was a gross misdemeanor offense. The county prosecutor still has some uncertainty about that and hasn't decided what they want to do with it yet. So it just kind of, the timeline got moved down the line. So that's
That
why it
makes a
took
lot
a
of
while to
sense to me.
get
That's
here.
very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. Just following up on what Councilmember Osk stated, if I remember correctly, it's progressive, just like the liquor, where the first violation, they come before us, the second, the third, or does this each one, the fine that we're looking to impose tonight, I'm trying to compare the two and remember what we did between the violations with this or the violations with the liquor license.
I don't have them up in front of me, but I think I have a pretty good memory of the liquor violation ordinance as well. And my general sense is that the violations start, or the sanctions start sooner and are more severe for the THC products license violation than for the liquor license violation. Because I think on the liquor license, for the first violation, I don't know that there's even necessarily a sanction imposed. It's just a sort of summons to appear before the council and explain the circumstances and efforts to come into compliance in the future. So here, the sanctions start sooner.
Okay, but also with a liquor license, it's with those, it's the person, it's the employee that it gets charged also, do they not, for violating the liquor license? So in this case, you've talked about employees too. Does that same thing apply to them versus just the owner?
There are violations and penalties for employees dealing with sales. With this, we've had some difficulties with the employees not being willing to identify themselves, and we can only push the issue so far without making an arrest or something like that. So with some of the employees, they haven't fully identified themselves. We felt that they were getting their guidance from the owner on this about what products they could and could not have out there, and being allowed to sell. The owner was spoken with each time, so it was clearly communicated with him. So our feeling was that looking at this from the licensee portion was maybe a little more direct and fair.
Any other questions? We've got the, oh, I forgot, I'm sorry. I even motioned to you.
Yeah. I don't have a question as much as a statement. You have been beyond patient. And we wouldn't tolerate this for tobacco sales. We wouldn't tolerate this for any of the alcohol sales. This many violations, this many explanations, and I get that it is confusing and it's new, and but it's been explained and explained and explained. This is ridiculous. They're not going to comply. So I don't think we have any choice.
All right. Anybody else? Robert?
I would just, before the council takes any action, I would encourage you to consider them separately. The first action is this resolution that's before you. It walks through the findings. It summarizes what Chief Felt has presented to you regarding the number of violations. 6 are enumerated, 6 occasions with multiple violations, I believe, on most, if not all, of those inspections. And then makes findings of fact that support the decision to impose the sanction under the ordinance, which is a 3-day suspension and a $1,000 fine on the business. That's the first action. And then secondly, I'd say independently, I'd recommend you consider whether to direct staff to initiate the revocation process for the license altogether. But so first would be the resolution just on the administrative penalty under the ordinance.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the administrative violation, the $1,000 civil fine, and the 3-day suspension of the license. We've got a motion to that. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead and vote.
That motion carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, and next is the revocation of High Cakes Recreational Dispensary THC license.
So moved.
We got a motion.
Second.
We got a second. Discussion. Go ahead and vote.
That motion also carries 6 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, next, the Candy Ohio County and City of Willmar Economic Development Commission name change. Leslie.
So the Candy Ohio County EDC is a joint venture with the Candy Ohio County and the City of Willmar Economic Development, created a joint powers board, and then just recently they have done some rebranding and have asked to change the name from Candy Ohio County and City of Willmar Economic Development Commission to Candy Ohio County Economic Development. Within the state law, it was under Chapter 121, Article 12, Section 28, that created the joint powers between Candy Ohio County and the City of Willmar for the purposes of forming an economic development authority. These state statutes are under Chapter 469 of the Minnesota State Statutes. And in reflection of all this, the EDC did meet with staff, excuse me, and we had to strongly advise that the City of Willmar, or at least the name Willmar, be part of the rebranding, package of the rebranding. And that is because this is a joint powers venture between everybody. And thank you, Mr. Mattson, for coming tonight and explaining how this all did come about. And I'm sure there was lots of discussions on the name, and that's what the name that they had chosen was Candy Ohio County City of Willmar Economic Development Commission. And of course, we just want to make sure that right now, everybody that's at the table understands how this all works and how the benefit is for the Candy Ohio County and City of Willmar. And it is also, I think, important that these are national, our EDC advertises nationally, let alone, regionally and that, and being not part of that name recognition, then the City of Willmar will no longer be recognized as part of that joint powers, which I think is very important for the City of Willmar to be recognized as part of that joint powers. And that's the powers that came to be through state action. So that's why our recommendation is that we are asking, we understand, and everybody is benefiting from this. We get that, and yes, the city benefits when the county benefits when the city benefits. But it's important, I think, that in the future, not losing that it's a joint powers recognition. And I think that's important. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions, comments?
Do you want a motion first of all before we talk?
Sure.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution and direct staff to send a letter to the Candy Ohio County and EDC, Candy Ohio County and City of Willmar Economic Development Commission Joint Powers Board, recognizing that the EDC Joint Powers Board reconsider the name, the new branding name, Candy Ohio County Economic Development, be changed to Candy Ohio Willmar Economic Development.
Second.
Okay. It's been seconded. I don't have a vote, but I had a vote that day as a member of and Julie is the chair, and Vicky serves on that. I think all three of us voted for.
Mm-hmm.
And I really stressed over losing Willmar designation in the name. But I don't know how much the loss of Willmar really does to what effect that has. I don't think it's going to affect how the Economic Development Commission operates or is effective in recruitment. Audrey?
I regret that we're here doing this tonight and that we didn't have the opportunity to have this conversation before that vote occurred. I had heard about it and I had gone to have a conversation with our city administrator. We looked to see when the next meeting was going to be, and on the calendar it was in December. And so it was like, oh, good, we have some time to have a conversation regarding this. However, there was a special meeting that was called that Leslie wasn't aware of also when this decision was made. And so I wish that we had had the opportunity to have this conversation before. I don't see how having Willmar in the name hurts the Economic Development Commission. I understand the process that they went through. I understand their committee structure. I understand that. With that, I believe there's room to be Candy High Willmar Economic Development Commission, and it's that recognition. I had a conversation with Aaron Backman regarding it. I shared that with you before. When you get out a map and look, what do you look for? Where do you see? You see cities. You don't see counties. You have to look to find counties. And even Aaron Backman said it the other night when he was talking about that. When he gets contacts and people ask him, where is it in relationship to St. Cloud or to Minneapolis? He didn't say, where is it in relationship to Stearns County or Hennepin County? He referenced the cities. We are the city of Willmar. We are an economic force within Candy County. What's good for Candy County is good for Willmar, and what's good for Willmar is good for Candy County. And I think our name needs to be in there to be at the table. Not now, maybe. I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Backman and the work that he does, and I think he works hard for the whole entire area and does a good job. But things change, people change, we won't be here, somebody else will be here. I just think that we need to be recognized in that name, and I think there's room for that. We asked 2 questions, and I don't know when we asked this to be on the agenda tonight, and I don't know whether that's happened or not, whether Robert Scott's been involved in reviewing the legal side of it. I'm assuming from the resolution, there's enough detail in that resolution that it was there. And what happens if 2 years from now, we brought the EDA, we brought Willmar EDA to the table and went through the process with the legislature to have this established. So we brought ourselves to the table and asked Candy Ohio County to be there with us to form this joint venture, if I've got it correct, with that. So what happens if 2 years from now or 3 years from now, we're concerned? How do we do this? There'll be different people probably sitting at both of those tables. Spicer has one, New London has one, Atwater has an EDA. I mean, they all have things that are working for them in addition to what the Economic Development Commission. We brought ourselves to the table to work together, and I think that's a statement that needs to continue. I want us to continue working together. However, I strongly believe our name still needs to be in that statement.
Vicki?
So, first of all, the name, the legal name is going to stay the same. This is just for branding, for marketing. I know that you want to recommend that it say Candy Ohio Willmar Economic Development. We talked about that at the Joint Powers meeting. Candy Ohio is a city in our county, so that is kind of confusing. If we say Candy Ohio Willmar, confusing, whereas just Candy Ojai is not confusing. And we have three commissioners on that board. 2 of them live in Willmar, and they voted for Candy Ojai. We had a couple of meetings about it, and all 6 of us voted that way. It's a joint powers board because we have 3 from the county and 3 from the city. I feel like maybe this is overstepping just a little bit to try to bring this recommendation.
Audrey?
Just to follow up, I think the 3 of you are representing this council, so I don't think it's overstepping with that. Candy Ojai can be a city, Candy Ojai can be county, so Candy Ojai Economic Development could be Candy Ojai, Minnesota. I get what you're saying with that. I think there's room for Willmar in that name. I think it's important for us to have it in that name with all the things that we are working on with that. I don't get how it's comfortable to leave it out. I think the word the West Central Tribune was dropped, and that's exactly how it feels, is that we were dropped from the name. You also talked about the legal name. I rather doubt that there'll be a disclosure. Everybody has to read the disclosure. We have to do that where I work. It have to be owned and operated by. So when you have a name that's different than your legal name, it's supposed to be on every document that you send out, everything you give to everyone. Does that same thing apply? Then it's a duplication of that, doing business as or whatever. How's that going to work? I still think we have a right to have our name there.
You know, I had a friend of mine years ago, he's passed away now. Just to interject a little jocularity. He would say, I feel strongly both ways. I'm torn. Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we've made a lot of comments, at the last meeting tonight. I think it's been suggested that maybe this is about ego, or is this about arrogance? Is this about a competition between Willmar and other communities? Is it about inclusion? Certainly everyone benefits from this. Is it about maps? Is it about how to pronounce a name or spell a name? And at the end of the day, I don't care about any of that. At the end of the day, this is a partnership. This is a legal agreement between the city of Willmar and Candy Ojai County. Other communities in the county have their own economic development agencies. We chose to share ours with the county. It's an equal partnership. And I think what's happening right now is that partnership is no longer being valued. They're attempting to remove, right, the city of Willmar from that partnership, at least in the name. And I think the reason that they're not changing the legal name is because it's easier, it's an end around. And so this doesn't seem inclusive. This doesn't seem like we're valued as equal partners in this. And so I'm more than happy to vote for sending that letter and to recommend that they reconsider it. And I mean, I'm still very interested in the question that was posed at the last meeting. What other alternatives are there to this? It seems like this is a decision for the Joint Powers Board. It'll be up to them if they're going to reconsider or not. But what other options does the city of Willmar have in this? Because again, this seems, at the end of the day, regardless of anything else, it's an equal partnership between these two agencies. What options do we have if the Joint Powers Board says, hey, thanks for your input, we're moving forward with our original plan?
Mayor, council, to answer the question, I mean, the recourse would be exercising rights you have under your joint powers agreement, which really does require it to be a voluntary partnership going forward. I think either party has the right to terminate the joint powers agreement. It has not been suggested to me, it's not suggested in this resolution before you, that the city is interested in in discontinuing that partnership, but that's the literal answer to your question, I think.
So nothing short of that.
Correct.
I think that this is merely to put this on record, that the city of Willmar really wants to be recognized as part of that joint powers. I think in the future, that's my concern, is the future, and what that can look like in the future. All the players here, yes, all the players here, all the commissioners, county commissioners understand it right now. But going forward, 5-10 years down the road, you'll have a whole different new EDC board, and they won't recall that it's a joint powers, because that'll be gone. I mean, the name, it's in the name. Branding is part of the name. And that's so important in branding, is the name. And that's just my concern, is that I don't want it to be forgotten that it is a joint powers. I understand there's 3 county commissioners, 3 council at the joint powers board. Yes. But it's the perception outside of that where this is the branding. And I think it's important. I mean, yes, the EDC is a great force. They've done great things. They do continue to do great things. Aaron Backman and his staff are wonderful. There's no doubt about that. But it's the future and the branding of that I'm concerned with.
Audrey?
Just a follow-up question to what Councilmember Osk asked about what recourse, or if they stayed, if it stays the same and down the road we decide we want to or need to do something, we would have to dissolve the joint powers in order to have our EDA back. Is that kind of the second part of that question?
Yeah, I think that's correct. The city has the authority, any city in Minnesota has the authority to have an economic development authority. In this case is unique. The city worked with the county. I wasn't around for this, but I understand the city and the county worked together, and special legislation was adopted that gave Candiotay County the same authority, and authorized the parties to enter into a joint powers arrangement like this. But if that were to go away, hypothetically, again, no one has suggested that's a goal of anybody here, but hypothetically, if that were to go away, yes, the city would still have the ability to have its own economic development authority, just like any other city in the state would.
We got a good thing going right now. Carl?
Since I seconded, and I feel like I should explain, I don't know that anybody wants to see a dissolution of the agreement. I just feel that it's too beneficial to everybody for that to happen. But I also very strongly believe and agree with the statement that people think of Willmar before they think of Candiotay County, and that may sound very arrogant, but it's not. It's when people ask where you're from, it's Willmar, or Spicer, or New London. It's not the county that you're from. And Willmar is the main player as far as economic development industry in the county. We benefit from things that are out in the county benefits from things that are in Willmar. And I just feel like to lose Willmar in that name does not help us. And that's why I'm supportive of the motion.
Audrey, read your motion again.
Excuse me. Approve the resolution and direct staff to send a letter to the Candiotay County and City of Willmar Economic Development Commission Joint Powers Board recommending that the EDC Joint Powers Board reconsider the new branding name Candiotay County Economic Development be changed to Candiotay Willmar Economic Development.
Any further discussion? Vicky?
I just want to say I am torn on it. I mean, and part of it is, you know, Aaron does such a good job and he works every day with this Economic Development Commission. And I feel like he would know, wouldn't he know if it would hurt to not have the name Willmar in there? Yet he finds business to come here. He still will find businesses to come here even if the name Willmar's not there. But then I understand why it's important to have it there, so.
I'm with you. Can I call on Harlan?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if it's appropriate or not.
Come up to the microphone. Harlan. You gonna give us some history or?
Just a couple of points of history, but first I want to say to each of you that I have appreciated, as a citizen of this county, I have very much appreciated the thoughtful discussion and conversation. I can see how the vote's going to go. I'm also torn with that because I want to add the words, as I said earlier, being inclusive and operating as a team. And teamwork requires a give and take. It requires that good communication. As a matter of clarification, Mr. Reese and members of the council, the Candy High Partnership, Wilt Krunkes for many years was the director of that. We are the ones that initiated the initial conversation about doing a partnership. Not because there was independence, but because in conversations with the Bruce Petersons of the world and so on, we looked at what we can do better together, both in planning and zoning, which we worked extensively together, and also in economic development, because they are hand and glove for those things. So again, I sincerely say thank you. I had debated whether to go home earlier because I have very early meetings tomorrow. I'm still going to some meetings, Commissioner Reese. But I feel so very strongly about this, of how much and how far we have come together over these last years. I don't want to see that interrupted. And if there is an alternative, I'm all for having those conversations, very much. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I thank you for allowing me to view my thoughts again, and I encourage you, as I would encourage the county board and the EDC, to continue to go ahead as a team. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Harlan. Justin?
I just wanted to say quickly that my support of this resolution does not mean that I don't value the current work of the EDC or Mr. Backman. I think they're both doing wonderful things, bringing a lot of success to the city and throughout the county. I also enjoy the teamwork that we have with the county. I think Willmar and the county working together, like, we are better together when we work as a team. Again, this comes down to there are two equal partners of this team, and they should be treated equally, and they should be presented as equal partners in this. And that's why I'm voting for the motion.
Anybody else? Audrey?
I think for the comments, I think you used the word inclusive, and I think that's what we're trying to be, is inclusive. We want to work together. We very much value it, but we have a stake at the table here too, and I think that's a good way to carry the message. Is we want to be inclusive, but we want to be recognized too.
All right. You've heard the motion. Vote.
The motion carries 4 ayes, 2 nays. Councilmember Davis and Councilmember Osmus voting no.
we're at the conclusion of our meeting. Community pride announcements, anything? Audrey?
Sorry. We had a nice invitation for Martin Luther King Day. However, I think our council meeting is that day. I'm just curious if that is true on,
That's a holiday.
it's a holiday?
Yep. Our
So my
council will
count-
be on Tuesday night.
Thank you. My calendar was wrong. Thank you.
All right. We're adjourned.
Need a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Thanks for bringing them.
Happy New Year.